G'day guys, welcome to episode 117 of Ask Jack D. I take a really good question today about my previous businesses prior to MBE education. A couple of them didn't work out too good at all. And about how do you know when to step away from a business that isn't succeeding. And then in the case of MBE, I actually stepped away from the management of a business that was massively succeeding. So in both instances, not succeeding to the degree that we want and succeeding beyond the degree that we had of imagined, how do you know and assess when to plug in, strap in and go for it? And how and when do you decide, according to what criteria and what guidance mechanisms and what commercial realities do you decide that one day it's time to move on?
And I'm trying to shape history, pulling from the sky for some strength to take with me. Line up the stars, fly away quickly and push the world forward like a tidal wave hit me. I ride the wave swiftly, I fear no man. Check my titles, mate, quickly.
G'day guys, welcome to episode 117 of Ask Jack D. For those of you who are on a Christmas break, I hope you're enjoying that. For those of you that are still hustling or working or whatever it may be, I hope you're enjoying that too. Today we take a question from Mark Orchard. Where's Mark's question from, Rosie?
From Facebook.
From Facebook as well, are we sure?
Yeah.
It's not to a Facebook?
Yeah.
Is it to a Facebook or Facebook?
It's Facebook.
Okay, it's from Mark's questions. It's from Facebook. Episode 117.
Stop.
I'm teasing Rosie. She is a phenomenal.
Off the ball today.
No, you are not off the ball today. Rosie demonstrated. What was it? You demonstrated that you were human. How did you do that?
I got the episode number.
Yeah, she got the episode number wrong, which is probably the first. It's not even an error. The first half error she's ever made in the history of her life. So I was actually quite relieved because it demonstrated that she is in fact a human being. So we love Rosie. Question today comes from Mark. I'm going to read it fast. Actually, let's bring it up on the screen because it's a long one. Jack, how did you decide when a business idea was no longer worth continuing? The Entourage has become a fantastic success, but I've always wondered about the 3 businesses, brands you had beforehand. Did you have a process in deciding to no longer continue these businesses, particularly MBE, which is going really well? Love your thoughts. Hashtag Ask Jack D. Mark, really good question. Okay, there's several different layers to this particular answer, so let's sort of go through it one by one. Firstly, the commercial answer is this. Some people, let me say this. Most people quit too soon. Some people quit too late, right? But only the minority. I think there's something in the air today. Only the minority quit too late, right? Most people quit too soon. You know when to move on from a business that is not succeeding when A, it is not succeeded for an endured period of time. Throughout that time, you haven't just been doing the same thing, and you know, Einstein's often misattributed with this quote. It isn't actually an Einstein quote, but the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing and expect a different result, right? So if you've been doing the same thing for a year and it hasn't worked and it's still not working and it's the same marketing with the same copy and the same product and there's been no iteration, there's been no flexibility, there's been no adjustment according to the feedback that you're getting from the market, then you really haven't been in business a year. Although it's taken a year, you probably could have learnt those lessons in 2 weeks. Had you have had a conversation, had you have looked at your Google Analytics, had you have done heat mapping on your website, you know where people are going, had you have called a couple of customers that have bought from you or called a couple of people that haven't bought from you. You know, there's so much you can do to have a dialogue, either literal dialogue or a metaphoric dialogue with your audience to be getting the feedback you need to be changing and adapting and iterating at any given moment to get closer toward a product to market fit, a message to market fit, a profitable, scalable business model, right? That takes a hell of a lot of freaking mistakes and failures. What we need to assume as early stage entrepreneurs, when you start out, you need to assume that you are 1,000 lessons. There are 1,000 lessons that divide you from where you are now to having a successful and profitable business. Now you can learn those 1,000 lessons over the next 6 years and you can learn them very expensively, or you can shorten that time frame a lot by trying new things, do it with minimal expenditure, speak to your customers. If you lean into making these mistakes and learning these lessons and you own the fact that you don't know it all yet and all of that sort of stuff, you can learn those lessons in 6 months. You can find a product market fit in 3 to 6 months if you want. It's probably fast, but when I say product market fit, I mean really good product market fit. So you need to have been iterating, right? If you've just been trying the same thing with the same marketing, the same product for 2 years, you probably haven't given it that much of a crack yet, even though you've been in the game 2 years. It's to what degree have you iterated according to the consumer. The second thing to that is this. You need to get the counsel, I believe. If you, let's say you've been in business a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, and it's still not succeeding, what I would do is I would go and seek the advice of somebody with been there, done that experience, in this instance, preferably with experience in this particular industry, and say, I'm doing this, I did that, I tried that, I'm at a loss, where am I going wrong, and am I flogging a dead horse, and should I continue, and if so, what does that forward path look like? I would always seek the advice and counsel of somebody who's been there, done that experience in that particular industry before you determine that you've tried all the different things that might potentially make it a success, right? Put that to the side for a second. You asked the question, Mark, is it? Mark?
Yeah.
Yep. Asked a question about MBE, right? MBE was a highly successful business. We helped our clients raise hundreds of millions of dollars from investors with MBE. We're one of Australia's fastest growing startups. Highly profitable business, highly successful business. Now, that's a different question to when do you know you've failed to the degree that warrants you to stop, versus when do you step away from the management of a business, because it was obviously still a shareholder. When do you know to step away from the management of a business, even when it's succeeding, right? That's an equally interesting question. And the answer is this: when I stepped away from MBE and when I was thinking about stepping away from MBE and starting the Entourage. Didn't have a name for it back then, obviously. Every single person told me not to, because I was in MBE world, right, where we would raise money, we'd help people buy businesses, we'd help people build value and sell businesses. It's a very lucrative market to be in. It's a very lucrative skill set to have, and it's served me incredibly well over the last 5 or 6 years since we started the Entourage. But if you can just do deals all the time, and financially, it's an incredibly good space to be in. And here's Jack, 23 years old, going, I want to go and start an education business unaccredited for entrepreneurs. And everybody in sort of MBE world's looking at me with two heads because it's such a commercial space to play in, and they're all extremely amazing and intelligent people. Going, I don't know if that's such a smart idea. Why don't you just keep doing what you do? Like, you're gonna, this is working out pretty well for you. And it was really interesting. I had two different people, and funnily enough, they were husband and wife. And the husband was saying to me, Jack, just do deals. Keep doing what you're doing. Make as much money as possible. And then start a not-for-profit in 10 years doing, education or whatever the case may be. And then I had his wife, it was kind of like the devil and the angel, right? His wife saying, follow your heart and you'll figure it out as you move through it, right? Which is not the most, it might not sound like the most commercial stance to take. However, in my view today, and what I know today, having built several successful businesses, having invested in businesses that are today worth, one business is worth about 170 million. I'm a small shareholder, small investor in it. Another business worth 110 million. We've got the Entourage Growth Fund that also invests in ups. So I've seen, I educate, probably over 10,000 entrepreneurs a year. So I've seen a lot of business owners, a lot of businesses. I've seen inside a lot of businesses by virtue of the investments we make. I've built several businesses, and I can tell you for a fact that the most commercial way to become successful in a financial and materialistic sense, and that shouldn't be your driver, but let's pretend for a second that it is, the most commercial way to succeed is to follow your heart. Because when you follow, and it even sounds just corny saying it, right? But when you're doing something that is truly uniquely you, and your work is an extension of yourself, and you are completely aligned and completely congruent, and work no longer feels like work, and you're not doing it for the money because you're doing it for the very fucking passion of whatever it is you're engaged in, no one can compete with you, right? Because when you're uniquely you don't have any competition. No one can compete with the mission that you're on. So that's how you know. If you've got a successful business and you're thinking, should I step away from it? My advice would be, I didn't shut MBE down, right? So there's this, let me give you the practical side. I'm not saying, if you're running a business right now and it's profitable and it's feeding your family, I'm not saying shut it down and go follow your dreams. What I'm saying is you might spend 6 or 12 months setting up that business so that it can run profitably, so that it can sustain growth without you. You engineer that business to operate that way, and in 6 to 12 months' time, you start to dilute your own involvement and go do something that's closer to who you are as a person, right? There are financial and commercial realities and responsibilities that come with life that you need to make sure are taken care of. However, if you can engineer yourself in a situation where the cash flow is taken care of, the finances are taken care of, the family and the kids are taken care of, and you can go and pursue your dreams and you can work on something that is a true extension of you, that's where you can forget about work-life balance because you've just found work-life brilliance. And that's what should navigate you through your path.
'Cause I'm lighting up the stars. You know I'm